Hi, Steven.
I can hear you.
Thanks for joining me. Can I firstly gauge your initial reaction to the news?
Well, I think that many people aren't particularly surprised by this, and I don't think I was either. After seeing that debate performance, I think that it was very difficult for Biden to continue running in this race. And we saw a series of leading Democrat voices calling for Joe to go behind the scenes. There were lots of reports in liberal media organizations in America that Barack Obama and others were urging Biden to drop out. So I don't think that we're particularly surprised by this. Maybe what is surprising is that Biden has endorsed Kamala so quickly. There seemed to be some tension between those two individuals, but it seems that Kamala looks like she's going to be the next Democratic nominee.
Well, of course, that tension has gone back a long time, ever since Kamala Harris implied that Joe Biden was a racist, of course, if we go back long enough. But, of course, he doesn't really have a choice at this point. They need to be able to move the funding over to the new candidate. This is the only way, really, to do it. And the likelihood is that maybe Kamala Harris knows that she's going to lose. Maybe the Democrats know that there isn't really a hope at this point, but that they can at least sort of treat this as damage limitation, I suppose.
I think that for the Democrats, they face a very difficult situation. Kamala Harris doesn't poll very well. She's seen as inauthentic and a bit awkward in her speech sometimes. And they've really got to find someone who they think can defeat Trump. They really don't like Trump. So anyone who can defeat him surely has to be their best option. Is Kamala that person? I don't know. At the same time, she is the vice president. And as you say, it's quite difficult in terms of the financial regulations surrounding the US presidential race as to whether she can, or another candidate can, use the money that Biden has raised for his campaign. So, and the other crucial factor in this all is that Kamala Harris is an ethnic minority woman. I think that was part of the reason that she was chosen to be the vice presidential candidate in the first place. And the Democrats, they're obsessed with these kind of identity issues. If they're seen to be replacing who they see as a black woman with maybe Gavin Newsom, a white man, there could be issues. So I think that Kamala Harris, she's got a very, very good shot at becoming the Democratic nominee, particularly after this endorsement from Biden.
But those identity issues haven't actually played particularly well for the Democrats. I mean, Biden was selected as the non-woke candidate. Of course, that lasted all but 10 minutes because I think one of his first executive orders was about helping biological males to end up in women's sports. So is it the case that maybe at this point the Democrats shouldn't be going down this identity politics route again? Didn't work out for Hillary Clinton either. Mightn't they take the opportunity to sort of reflect and maybe change their strategy?
Certainly, I think that the Republicans are, making this point very loudly, that the person who should be the presidential candidate shouldn't be picked on the basis of their race or gender, but should be picked on whether they're the best person for the job. And it doesn't seem in Kamala's case that this has happened. I think that she's never actually been elected. What you have to remember is she didn't do very well in the primaries in 2020, and she's never really been in a major elected position. So it does seem odd to many Republicans that this is the person that they've chosen to be, or likely chosen to be, their next candidate. Looking to the other candidates, you've got Michelle Obama as well. Potentially, she polls very well against Donald Trump. And Gavin Newsom, the governor in California. Now, he's a white man, so maybe that kind of hurts his prospects.
Can I ask you about what do you think of the introduction of J.D. Vance into this equation? He's now been chosen as the VP pick for Donald Trump. It's an interesting choice, perhaps not the most strategic choice if Trump was thinking of wooing the swing states. Really, it's a choice that consolidates his appeal to working class voters, I suppose. But in addition to that, doesn't the introduction of J.D. Vance into this debate add some kind of intellectual heft to what has been seen as really a kind of populist movement?
J.D. Vance wrote a famous memoir, Hillbilly Elegy, which was turned into a Netflix movie. As you say, he's seen as a more intellectual figure in the more sort of MAGA world. Trump chose as his last vice presidential candidate Mike Pence, who was basically a Christian kind of nationalist, someone who Trump or evangelical, someone who Trump sort of chose to try and sort of select or try and aid his support with the evangelical Christians. This time round, I think he has that support, already guaranteed. So he decided to go with J.D. Vance. And it's also interesting, some people are speculating that he chose J.D. Vance because he's seen as a very kind of authentic MAGA supporter, someone who's very, very conservative, very right-wing on many of these issues. And, if the Democrats want to try and remove President Trump, we saw that he was very, very close to being assassinated just a week ago. I think they'd be very, very terrified or scared of J.D. Vance becoming the president after that. So I think that, there's a lot of interesting strategic decisions going on here. And as you say, Vance has a strong connection with more working class voters across America and the Rust Belt and so on.